This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening and welcome to our Thursday night New York Giants Preservation Society meeting with the legendary Will the Thrill Clark. I cannot believe he's here tonight, and I know it's making a lot of you guys very, very happy. Just so you're aware of what's been going on, the website we discussed last week, I renewed it. We're all good for another year on that, so no worries with that. Next week is Martin Luther King's birthday, and due to that, I got Rick Swain, who's going to be talking about the New York Giants integration in 1951. So that should be a very interesting meeting as well. Tonight, we have Will Clark. Will is, of course, never played for the New York Giants, but Will has got to know that 90% to 95% of the people in here root for the San Francisco Giants. And Will has given all of us magical memories that will last with us forever. Each one of us probably has their own, but I mean, you know, I don't know what could really beat Superman Does It Again. That's one of my favorites, of course. But anyway, we're going to introduce Will. First thing we're going to do is maybe Will tell us what he's doing presently with the Giants. And then we will take questions, comments, observations, whatever it is that we want to do. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, present Will Clark. Will, welcome to the New York Giants Preservation Society.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate you and all the gentlemen and ladies coming on here and welcoming me. Right now, in my capacity with the San Francisco Giants, I am one of the special hitting instructors. I not only see the major league team every month, but I also see every one of our minor league affiliates. When I am seeing the minor league affiliates, I am not only teaching, but I'm evaluating. And at the end of my stay with the team, usually it's a full homestand, I'll write a big report. I'll cover pitchers, catchers, coaching staff, trainers, strength and conditioning guys. I'll basically tell everybody what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what the players have to work on a little bit more, et cetera, to make it to the next level. So not only am I an instructor, but I'm also an evaluator.
Wonderful. Hopefully you could help a lot of our batters, because some of us
they need to listen. That's what they need. A lot of talking, not much listening.
I have one question and one comment. Now, I have been watching the Giants since 1969, and without a doubt, when the game was on the line, there's only one guy I wanted in that batter's box, and that is yours truly. And I'm not sucking up to you. I'm telling you the truth. I felt that you were the most prepared player to ever don that Giant uniform. And when the game was on the line, you were ready. Did you like that moment?
I love that moment. And, you know, I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there, Gary. I mean, there's a lot of people that, you know, when they come up to home plate, they're okay in the mediocre situations, but those high pressure situations, a lot of guys, when those bright lights come on, they don't want to be in that situation. And I was quite the opposite. I wanted to be in that situation. I wanted to have the bat in my hands late in the game. And, you know, being in the 3 slot in the order, you know, with the Giants, I was able to come up there a lot with game on the line. And, you know, now you see these kids, you know, I mean, you know, they get a game-winning base hit and they dunking Gatorade on them and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, back then we just gave it an old handshake. It was like, hey, nice job. You did what you're supposed to do. And, you know, now these guys, it's amazing. You know, matter of fact, my son even brought it out. It's in one of my baseball cards. I don't know which baseball card, but over a 3-year span, I think it was 87, 88, 89, right in there, I had 36 game-winning hits in the 8th inning or later. So, you know, to go back to what you were saying, you know, I wanted to bat in my hands. I wanted to end the ball game and you know, let's go get a beer with the boys.
We felt very confident watching you, and we're hoping that they somehow would get to you because we felt we could win with you up at the plate.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
My one question or comment, any regrets about leaving the Giants? Because frankly, I feel that if you remained with the Giants, we're talking Hall of Fame. Well, that's how good you were.
Well, put it this way. I mean, I tried the whole time in '93, my last year with San Fran. I tried the whole time to renegotiate a deal. I wanted tenure. I wanted to have a 4 or 5 year contract because I wanted to retire as a Giant. And I even told the San Francisco Giants I'd take a lot less money to remain a San Francisco Giant. And at the time, it was Bob Quinn, who was the general manager, and Peter McGowan was kind of the owner in charge, and they didn't want to listen. And so they kind of forced my hand. They basically told me to go free agent. So, you know, the business side of baseball sort of snuck up on me. And, you know, McGowan was in charge for a while until he got out. And Bill Newcomb took over in 2008. And as soon as Bill Newcomb took over, a week later, he gave me a phone call and said, "We'd like to have you back." And I said, "I've been waiting on this call." I said, I'll be on the next plane flight to San Fran.
Well, that's great. And before we turn it over to other people's questions, just congratulations on having your number retired. So well deserved. And just
My
can't say
boy
much
is
more than that.
giving me drinks while I'm doing my interview.
All right, there's a lot of people in here. I'm gonna have to go back and forth between rooms to see whose hand is up. I'm gonna start with Brian. Brian, you are up. Brian Weinberg. And then we're gonna go to Harvey, Steve Rothschild, Dan, Judge, and Norm to start.
Okay, can you hear me? Yep.
Yes, we can.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, Mr. Clark. How are you?
Hello, Brian. Who's the big fella next to you?
So this is James. My name's Brian Weinberg. This is my son James. He's 9 years old, and my dad Harvey Weinberg's floating out there somewhere in Zoom world. And before I even, if you indulge me for 45 seconds, I'll Mr. Mintz, I want to thank you for allowing us to crash your party, and also to all of you members of the society for what you do and for what you mean to my dad. This is fantastic, and the stories he tells me and how you guys carry on the tradition of the New York Giants. Well, he is wearing his San Francisco Giants hat tonight. So just indulge me with this, because this is a long thank you in the making. I want to thank you, Mr. Clark, for who you are and what you mean and what you meant to me. You have been my favorite baseball player almost my entire life. When I was James's age, my parents decided they wanted to move for my brother and myself to get a better school district. So new school, new friends, new Little League. And that my dad decided to help us out that year, and he coached. So coach's kid, you get first pick, right? So you dive into that contractor's bag that every Little League uniform is in. And I pull out 16 because I have to admit, I'm a Mets fan. Doc Gooden was my guy. I had the whole thing going. I was going to be just like him. And we Weinbergs run big. So 16 didn't fit. But guess which number did? 22.
There you go.
I got to say, I was a little dismayed. And my dad said, "No, here." And he handed me the Giants media guide and the Giants yearbook, because he would send a check. You know, this is pre-Twitter and internet and all that good stuff. He'd mail a check to the Giants, and he would get a media guide and a yearbook. And I got to tell you, it was about 1988, and it was a good time to become a Will Clark fan because I was hooked.
Well,
So
thank you.
You fast forward a couple of seasons, and we go to a Mets game, and I'm there, and there you are. You come trotting out down the left field line, and you sign autographs. And like you said before we started, you signed everybody's autograph, including this one that I've had forever. And you come down, there's Will Clark in the flesh. You sign the ball. I cannot think of what I'm saying or thinking. Here's my daughter as well. There's Alexandra. She's 11. She just got back from volleyball. Okay. So you come out, and I'm in awe. I can't say anything. My dad says, "Hit a homer for us big kids, Will." And in only the smile that you could give, you gave that Will Clark smile. And my grandfather was at the game, a New York Giants fan. His favorite player was Carl Hubble. And in only the way
Wow.
that a grandfather can, he says, You're a beautiful man. And I've been telling that story ever since. But I was a Will Clark fan. I'll put it to you this. I was at the NLCS with my Will Clark Cardinals jersey under my Mets sweatshirt because that's what I would do. But it's not about the number. It's about what you brought, because I'm about to introduce to you, well, they're both here. We decided we needed to move out of the city for the kids to go to a better school for support, and they're doing well. And with that, new friends, new school, travel baseball, something I didn't have to experience as a kid, and we don't have to discuss it. But Jamesy is with a wonderful group, and he got to pick his number. And I thought he was going to pick 99 because he's a little partial to a 6'7" outfielder that plays not far from where we live in New York here. But he said, Dad, if I make the team, I'm going to pick 22 for you and Will Clark. So I want to thank you. It's not a number. It's what you brought to the game and what you meant to me. But with that whole buildup, and thank you everybody for indulging me, I want to introduce you to number 22, a lefty, for the New Rochelle.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
To show you.
Oh, yeah.
Here it is.
Oh, yeah. Look
Fun
at
to
him
watch
go.
him run around. And I think he's got a question for you. Thank you so much.
Quite welcome. Fire away, big boy.
If you who can play for any team, if you couldn't play for any team that you already played for, what team would you play for?
Oh, that's a good one. So believe it or not, at the end of my career, I got traded to St. Louis, and I really had a good time in St. Louis. It's a very, very good organization. I'm with San Francisco. I'm a Giant at heart, but if you could give me a little bit more time playing, I wouldn't mind playing for the Cardinals for a little while longer.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
by
you.
the way, enjoy 22. There's a lot of hits in that number, buddy.
There you go.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
And thank you, Brian. We might as well make it a family affair. Harvey, you're up. Unmute, Harvey.
Unmute, Grandpa.
Yeah, can you hear me, Will?
I got you now, Harvey.
I can't top those guys. They're the best. But I will say, I remember that night, Will. I had watched your pregame ritual. You were out on the left field foul line doing light wind sprints, and then you'd make almost a military about face and walk towards the stands and work your way back to the dugout, signing baseball. So signing. And at one point in that night, I remember like it was yesterday, I had Brian and my dad and my late wife, and we were mesmerized when you walked right over, and there was another little kid. Everybody was crowding around to get an autograph, and the kid dropped his pen onto the field. If you remember at Shea Stadium, the ground level was up a little high. We would like eye level with you, and the kid drops the pen on the field, and he barks at you. He goes, "Pick up my pen," and you said, "What do you say?" And you had the eye black on, and the kid bolts upright, and he goes, "Please," and you pick up the pen.
Yep.
Will Clark.
Yeah, I did that a lot because yes, ma'am, and no sirs, and please and thank yous were big with me growing up in my family, in my household. And when I was playing pro ball, and some of these kids were like, "Hey, son, I'm a bull, do this, do that." I'm like, "What's the word you missing here, Jack?" And so tried to help out their moms and dads a little bit.
I got that from my mom and my dad too.
I remember the first day you were ever in the big leagues.
Well, all I'm going to say is thank you so much for doing this. You are a delight, and I enjoyed every one of your at-bats that I could see. I'm telling you.
Well, thank you. I
Harvey.
appreciate it.
Will, we got a
How
special
do you
guest
get
on.
the sound on?
Will, we got a special guest on, Bob Laurie. Bob, go ahead.
Well, I remember the first day you were in the big leagues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Your career was fabulous, and you're a fabulous guy.
Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you. And you and Connie, were special people, and you're always in my life, and I love you guys.
Well, we feel the same way. You're just super.
Thank
And I'm
you, Bob.
glad you're getting a chance to talk, which is
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah, no, Gary set this up a little while ago, so I'm glad it's working out.
Well, he let me know about it, and I wanted to be sure and say hello.
Well, thank you. And tell Connie we said hi, please.
Will do.
Bob, great seeing you. Stay well, okay?
I bet.
And,
Yes, I will. I try to do that every day. Say well.
And just letting you know, Gary, I put Bob in my speech when my jersey got retired. I said it's the best owner I ever played for.
Thanks so
Well,
much, Will. Steve Rothschild, you're up.
I remember those kind words you said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, my son and I, my son is actually on the Zoom tonight too. My son and I were at the playoffs in '89. And when that ball went in your glove in game 5 and it ended, I started crying where we were sitting. And I still remember my son looking at me saying, "Why are you crying?" I said, "Scott, you just don't understand. It's 27 years. And that
Yeah.
got me into the documentary that came out in 2008, 50-Year Giants. I ended up being the New York representative to that documentary. But
Oh,
the
great.
2019, I was invited to the Gotham Club, and you were on the warning track with some people before the game. And
Yeah.
I go outside and I call my son and I put the phone to the side and I said, "Scott, you recognize this voice? Because you're his favorite player." He goes, "Yeah, it's Will Clark." I said, "You want to speak to him? How are you going to do that?" He said, "Just wait, you'll see." So we finished talking to some people and I walked over to you, told them the story of my son's favorite player, although you didn't sign an autograph for him in the hotel downtown, blah, blah, blah. So I gave you the phone and you had a nice chat with him. And I remember the end of the conversation, "Scott, we're going to try to win one for you tonight." And you did. The Giants did win that night.
There you go. There you
Memory.
go.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Dan Taylor, you're up.
Thanks, Gary. Will, thanks so much for doing this. This is terrific. A couple of questions I had. One, your feelings about playing in Candlestick, and along with that, was there anybody that gave you any pointers, any advice on how to deal with the sun, and what technique did they talk to you about on dealing with the sun in Candlestick?
All right. So that's a two-part question. First part, I loved playing in Candlestick. Roger Craig and Al Rosen came out my rookie year, and they said, "Don't you guys bitch and moan about this because we're going to use this ballpark to our advantage. We're not going to play day games. We're going to play night games. We're going to play when it's miserable because the other team doesn't want to be out there, and we're going to use it to our advantage." So I actually really enjoyed Candlestick. It was a great hitter's background. You could pick up the ball really quick. So from that end of things, it was really good. The second end of your question about the sun, it was actually, believe it or not, it was kind of a leftover from my Mississippi State days. The sun would go down behind the batter, and so I always had to have a way to block the sun. And so, you'd either, have your glove above your face to block the sun, or in the case of Candlestick, and this is what I tell a lot of the Giants nowadays, what you do is you change angles. So if the ball goes up and it's in the sun, it's directly in the sun, all you do is you turn your body and you change that angle and the ball comes out the sun. And, we did that at Candlestick all the time. Another thing that we did, believe it or not, was we shot foul balls or pop-ups every day in spring training. And it was not to catch the ball. It was for communication purposes, because when the ball went up at Candlestick, you had three guys that were chasing after it and everybody screaming and yelling, going, "Hey, I got it. No, I don't have it. It's blowing back towards you. No, he's coming in on it." And so we were always talking the whole time we were running.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Good question.
Judge Jim, you're up. Judge, unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I got you. Well, first, Will, like Gary, I started liking the Giants in the late 60s. So that means we lived through 72 through 85, 86, which had to be the worst nightmare of following a baseball team. That
78 was not bad.
78 was okay. That's right. Joe Altobelli was the manager there. He was from Rochester. So that was a decent year. But generally, in 72 to 86, pretty rough. So that's why we love you, just so you know that.
Well, thank you.
So the 87 to 89 teams were, to me, as much as I enjoyed 10, 12, and 14, and they were fantastic, my favorite teams are still 87, 89. I just love that.
And then another one too, Judge, is 93. I mean,
yeah,
100. I tell everybody, 103 games, and we went back home.
Yeah.
Now 103 games. You're the wild card champion. You might be in the World Series.
Yeah,
You never know.
Exactly. Well, my question though was about in the 87, 89 team. One of the most remarkable stories I can recall in any sport was what Dave Dravecki. And I just want to know what I've read both of Dave's books. He mentions you prominently. I know you two were close. I know you were there for the big moments, and can just reflect a little bit on your relationship with Dave. I'd be interested in that.
I had faced him, when he was with San Diego, and knew what kind of competitor he was. And then, when you get with him on the same field and you see what kind of individual he is, what kind of Christian man he is, what kind of beliefs he has, his strong work ethic, his strong family. He and I bonded, and then we bonded in more than one way. I was the first guy to him when he was on the ground out there in Montreal, and I was biding time until the medical staff got out there, and that's something that he and I'll have to live with for a long time.
Your recollection of the comeback game against Cincinnati?
That was absolutely amazing. For him to go out there in Candlestick and have that place be rocking and go out and throw. I think he threw like 7 shutout innings and only gave up maybe 2 or 3 hits. I mean, it was just amazing what kind of a pitcher that man was.
Yeah, remarkable. I won't ask you about how Eddie Maldonado lost that ball in the lights of Game 6. We'll leave that for another time. Still trying to.
Well, he shouldn't have slid feet first. He should have come in arm first.
Keep the ball in front of you. Yeah.
I suppose I should be over that by now, but that still haunts me.
No.
Thanks for doing this for us tonight. Appreciate it.
Hey, look,
that and Felix Rodriguez in Game 6.
We all do it, we all sit there and say, oh, it's that one play. No, there was 15 other plays in that game. If we'd have executed it, we wouldn't have been in that situation. So
but great year, and loves 87, 89, 88, 90.
Thank you. Fantastic. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Great.
Thank you, Judge. Storm and Norman, you're up. Norm Coleman.
Okay, Will, I'm going to give a little intro like everyone else did. I'll have a question eventually. I'll try to do this short, but I just want you to know, and everyone, you can see it from everyone's questions, how much we love and appreciate you. The thrill is not just on the field. The thrill you give comes off the field also, in the way you deal with people. Just everyone has a chance to meet you for a few seconds, and it's like one of the greatest moments of our lives. I mean, I have one right here.
Unless he yelled at you.
Unless he yelled at you. This is from Half Moon Bay at the Legends of Swing golf tournament barbecue.
Okay.
I was the quiz master that evening. I wrote the baseball quiz for the players who were in attendance, and just talking with you was a tremendous thrill. My friend Ori and I were talking with you, and we just it was all laughter. Just your personality, the whole thing was so great, but that's not the important part of the story. The important part is I'm in the bar area, you're talking to people about hunting, and I'm watching a baseball game on TV, and all of a sudden there's a guy sitting next to me saying, those guns are a joke. And the guy is you. And my first thought was, you're talking about hunting, and there's certain guns in hunting is a joke, but then you're saying, no, the speed on that it's showing on the pitches there is not accurate. And then you start going into great detail about, if this was that speed, here's what the batter would be doing. And it was just having you said it was a big thrill for me. And so now if I have the question, and that is, are the speed guns accurate today? In terms of, are these pitchers throwing that much faster than they were throwing when you were playing ball? And if so, how would you adjust? And what do you tell the players of today that you're working with?
So that's a great question. And the guns now are a lot more accurate. The guns back then were not as accurate. I can tell you flat out right now that these guys that you're seeing on TV all the time and it's saying 97, 98, they're not throwing that hard. Okay. And the guns are giving you, believe it or not, split times. They're giving you when the ball's coming out of the guy's hand and then when it gets to home plate. And so here was a perfect example. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. They had the split times on this guy and he was throwing 96, but then when it got to home plate, it was 92, because it's losing velocity on the way. And so I asked the guy, I said, so is he throwing 96 or is he throwing 92? They go, no, he's throwing 96. I go, that's bullshit. When he gets to you, he's throwing 92, dude. It ain't no 96. I'm telling you that right now. So, there's so many numbers in the game now, and especially with these radar guns and their accuracy level and all that. People are really blowing it out of proportion. And Gary and I kind of talked about this a little bit, but I told Brandon Crawford this. I said, because he said you couldn't hit in our era because everybody throws so hard. I go, I got guys you never even heard of that can just flat out bring it. That was first off. And then second off is, these guys now, I mean, they got a white box on TV and the ball has to go through the white box for it to be a strike. I'm like, hell, if you'd have told me I didn't have to cover 6 or 8 inches off the plate for Greg Maddux and I just had to look in that box, I'm going to wear somebody's ass out. And so I told Crawford, I said, you couldn't hit in our day. I could hit in your day.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Norm.
My pleasure. Great question. Great question.
Will, I got a quick question before we go to Jim Weber. You told us about your job is, going around teaching guys how to hit the correct way. My question is this. Our general manager has espoused the fact that we need to play better defense.
Yes.
We have three first basemen who are not first basemen. Wilma Flores is a second baseman and a third baseman. Lamont is an outfielder. And Davis is also a first baseman, third base, really a third baseman. And are they going to ask you to help these guys? Because that's a black hole, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. So I've been working with Lamont over there quite a bit the last few years. He gets it. He's fine over there. Flores, I have not worked with him yet because he's been more, on the corners in the middle. And then Davis, I just met him once last year, and he seems like a great guy. So I'm really looking forward to working with him this year and kind of seeing how he takes it, because I try to make it as simple as possible over there because those guys got so much going on during the game. And if it's not your first primary position, the big thing you got to do is catch it and make sure you stand on first base, and that's it.
Thanks, Will. Jim Weber, you're up.
2 short questions, Will. What went through your mind when you turned down $35,000 and chose to go to Mississippi State? And number 2, just take us back. Tell us what it was like when you hit one in the McCovey Cove. What went through your mind?
So as far as turning down the offer from Kansas City, I was drafted in the 4th round with Kansas City. I was in the same draft as Saberhagen. Saberhagen was number 1. I was number 4. Steve Balboni was number 3. So they had drafted another first baseman right ahead of me. And the whole premise of me with the negotiations was I knew I was going to get my education at some point or another. And I wanted the Royals to pay for a college education. They wouldn't do it. So that's kind of why I turned them down. And then the second end of the question was, I'm sorry.
What was it like when you hit one in McCovey Cove? Just tell us what went through your mind.
So, everybody's like, can you hit one in the Cove? And I go, yes. And that doesn't go anywhere. I mean, yeah, you get a little older, but I mean, you're still going to make contact. It's still going to go out there. And one of my former teammates, Chris Spire, was throwing me batting practice, and he was laying them right in there. And I hooked a few into the Cove foul, and then finally I caught 1 or 2 fair down there. And so I had to give Chris the old, tip of the cap right there.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Jim.
quite
Mars,
welcome.
Mars, you're up.
Will, I'm sure we're all honored to have you as our guest. Thank you so much. Questions I have, especially with the bullpen game as opposed to a complete game by starting pitchers and the uppercuts of the hitters today. Since your retirement, do you have opinions if the game has changed for the better or worse?
I'm
Worse.
gonna use this word. I'm gonna use this word, and y'all don't get all mad at me. But they have pussyfied the game. All right.
Yes.
You know, I agree totally with what you're saying. You know, these bullpen games, it's like, wait a second, we got you know, they make 650, you know, transactions, but yet at the same time, we got 3 or 4 starters down in AAA. Why don't you bring one of the starters up from AAA and let them give you 5 or 6 innings? You know, I don't know why we have to do these bullpen games, expose our bullpen, and then also wear them out to where the starter has to go longer the next day because we just used everybody in the bullpen. So that's first off there. Second off, the uppercut stuff. This is something that absolutely pisses me off. And I got to work with it every day, every time I go see one of the minor league affiliates. Everybody wants to drop that back shoulder and then get that elbow up and then swing up at the ball. And, you know, it's the old adage here. Let me see if I can do this right here. So the ball's coming this way. You want to go this way. Boom. You don't want to come up at it because your timing has to be absolutely perfect. If you go this way, I can hit it here, 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 here. And my timing doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And so you get all of the best that ever come, you know, down to first base. The Tony Gwynns, Wade Boggs, Keith Hernandez, Don Mattingly. You get all of those guys, and we're all comparing notes, and we're all saying the same thing. And then now you see what these meatheads are teaching. It's like, I don't know who the hell's teaching this shit, but I guarantee you they didn't hit 300 in the major leagues.
Well, I totally agree with you. That launch angle and that exit velocity, it's pure bullshit.
You know, one of the kids asked me, not you said this, one of the kids asked me, he goes, Coach, what was your average exit velocity? I go, well, if I hit the shit out of it and it fell in foul ground, I said I was making a left-hand turn. And if I didn't hit the shit out of it, I was making a right-hand turn going back to the dugout. That was my exit velocity, going back to the dugout.
Well said. You're preaching to the choir.
Thanks,
there you
Mars.
go, brother. Thank you. Great questions.
Jeff Cohen, you're up.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks, Phil, for doing this. I'm full disclosure, I'm a Mets fan here. I know there's a couple there's a couple on here, but my grandmother.
Look, you're a baseball fan. That's all that matters.
My grandmother, when she came to this country, followed the New York Giants, and so I followed Giants in her honor. But Brian Weinberg did mention a couple of a player that I wanted to ask you about. When you played against the Mets, how'd you do against Dwight Gooden and David Cone?
So David Cone, he was a challenge because he did not throw from the same angle all the time. He'd be up high, he'd drop down, he'd sidearm you. He did all kinds of different stuff. So, David Cone gave you a lot of problems from that regard. Dwight Gooden was just power on power, and he located. And so you had to, keep your fingers crossed that Dwight would make a little mistake. Otherwise, you had your work cut out for you.
You batted .294 against Dwight Gooden, so that's not too shabby. And,
really?
And .290 against David Cone.
Yeah, that goes back to what Crawford was talking about. He's like, oh, you couldn't hit against guys that threw hard. Oh, really? Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Charles, you're up.
My pleasure.
Oh, man, I don't know where to go. God, I loved watching you play. You were just so much fun. And you came to the Giants and you wanted to win, which was so different from the previous 2 years. I'm going to go kind of a different angle on this because baseball is a team sport. And I wanted to ask you about, the guys on the infield who you played with the Giants, in part because, this is going to sound weird. I am a huge Jose Uribe fan. I thought he was a really good shortstop, good range, strong arm. you know, him and Thompson up the middle. God, they were fun to watch.
Yep.
And I
Yeah,
wanted to get kind of
we
your
led
perspective on that.
the double plays. We led double plays in the major leagues for like 4 years in a row with those two guys up the middle.
Oh yeah, they were fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So to expound on what you're saying right there, you know, and then I told you guys this before we started recording, but I mean, you know, you had Matt Williams at third, you had Jose at short, and you had Robbie Thompson at second. I could stand like this and they would hit my glove every damn time. I mean, they made it a first baseman's dream over there. But the big thing that we did, and if you ever notice this, that we made a play, we got the ball around the infield, we got it back to the pitcher, and the pitcher jumped back on the mound. He's like, he wanted to go. We wanted to keep that rhythm going, keep that momentum going. You know, if the pitcher's locked in, keep him on the mound. Here we go, big boy. Let's go. And let's get off
As
the field.
Kruko would say, no Jimmy Jacking around.
There you go, right there. There was no Jimmy Jacking. He got the ball back, and then guess what? He did his thing, and we backed him up.
And you guys had some great pitchers with Rick Russell,
Yeah.
Don Robinson, Kruk. You know, God,
Yeah.
you guys, that
Yeah.
those were some really fun teams to watch.
Javecki.
So I got a Rick Russell story for you, Big Daddy. All right, you're gonna love him. So, you know, every now and then Roger Craig would say, "Hey, go talk to the pitcher." You know, one of those numbers. And when Big Daddy was on the mound, you didn't go to the mound. And Roger goes, and Big Daddy's having a rough game this time, and Roger gives me a go talk to him. I go, no, I ain't going out there. He goes, you need to go talk to him. I said, I ain't going out there. And so finally he says, get your ass out there. So I go running out to the mound. I call timeout. I go running out to the mound, and I get about halfway, and Big Daddy looks at me and he goes, get the hell off my mound. I turned around. I went right back to first base, and I looked at Roger. I said, he won't let me on the mound. You got to go out there.
That's great.
I loved it. Roger Craig was a fun manager to watch manage because his wheels and his mind they were going.
He did a lot of stuff by the seat of the pants, and you had to pay attention because you never knew what was coming up next.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks,
It
Charles.
was fun. Thank
Dave
you.
Lippman, you're up.
Oh, thanks. Will, I tell you, I'm so excited to be here, as you can tell by my T-shirt. If you,
I love that T-shirt. I had that T-shirt on yesterday, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, I ordered it on eBay at some expense because I just had to have it. I'm a third generation Giants fan. One of the biggest thrills of my life was to get to see you play live at the Stick. I flew all the way from Japan to where I was stationed in the Navy to see you play 4 games against the Mets and 2 against the Expos. You split the series with the Mets, which I couldn't believe because they were the worst team in baseball. And you took the 2 I saw from the Expos. I still have the sign that says "Bite the Big Apple" that the Chronicle was giving out, and I hold it up when I go out to Citi Field when they play the Giants.
There you go.
The second thing is I just also want to thank you for the work you've done for autistic folks, because I'm mildly autistic myself. I have Asperger's. I'm sure you know what that's all about.
And then my son has it as well.
Yeah, then you know that it's like going through life in bubble wrap.
Yep.
You know,
And thank you for being a Giants fan for all these years.
I can tell you more about it. Your son can't get the point. He has issues with empathy. He can't handle subtlety. It's difficult. Anyway, that's something like we can talk all day about on another day. My question to you is: you saw pitchers in the American League and the National League. I got to ask you, of all the guys you saw, who was the toughest pitcher you ever faced?
All right, so I get this question a lot, and it is not a person. All right, and it's not a person, and the reason being, when you are in the spot that I was in the batting order, number 3, you're going to face everybody's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. You're going to face everybody. And so I was not one of those guys that when I got in the batter's box, I was like, oh, there's Pedro, oh, there's Randy or something like that. No, I have a job I have to do. That being said, a guy with a good changeup is going to give you fits. Anything, and I'm talking about anything. I'm talking about a curveball, a slider, a split finger. It has different rotation. A fastball and a changeup have the same rotation. That's what gives everybody fits. So anybody with a good changeup is going to give you a tougher time. A guy like a Glavine, a Maddox, Jamie Moyer, John Tudor, guys like that, they're going to give you a tougher time.
As opposed to a heat merchant like
Correct.
Randy
Correct.
Johnson, for the sake of argument.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Dave.
Correct.
And Dave, thanks for sharing your story. And for the rest of you, if you want to contribute to Will's Foundation for Autism, I had sent out that link. And if you'd like, click on it and do what you got to do.
Here's another thing too, Gary. I get a lot of fan mail, and I answer every bit of my fan mail. If people want, autographs and stuff like that, they can send it to the ballpark, and it's $20 per signature for Autism Speaks, and I'll donate all the money to autism, and then turn around and get everybody their signatures.
Wonderful.
Good man. Good man.
You'll be hearing from me.
Great,
Thank
Dana, you're up.
Hi, Will. Thanks very much for being here today. I was actually a little surprised when I logged on and I saw that you didn't have your eye black on. And I thought, it's game day. You don't seem like you're prepared.
Well, the thing was, I was hunting today and it was overcast, wind was howling. And so that's kind of why I'm a little wind burnt if you see my cheeks. But it's kind of funny, I was so synonymous with the eye black for a long period of time that when people don't see me and I got a Giants hat and they don't see it, they're like, "Where's the eye black? We need the eye black." So
I guess you're just supposed to wear it everywhere you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question I had for you is, one of your more famous at-bats was when you faced off against Mitch Williams in the 1989 championship series.
Yeah.
He was just a brutal person to face. He looked intimidating to right-handed batters, let alone left-handed batters.
Right.
And it kind of made me wonder, I think we all take for granted that baseball players are up there and that they don't have fear. But at some point, every player, including you, would have to get over the fear of being hit and severely hurt, either in the head or the elbow or wherever. Could you just speak about your experience of how you, over your career, if you had any of that, how did you get over it? And was there any pitcher you faced where you thought, I'm actually absolutely terrified to be in the box right now?
You know what? Not really. I had a kind of a closed stance. And so we were always taught that if the ball started at you, you rolled. And I caught it in the back. I caught it, in the shoulder or the buttocks or, in the back of the ribs. But I didn't get that dead center right smack in the middle. And, for the majority of my career, I really didn't get hit too bad. You get pounded, but you just sort of play it off. The one that did get me was Randy Johnson got me in 96 or somewhere up in there. He got me right above the elbow, and that was a little tough because I couldn't feel my fingers for a long period of time. And so Johnny Oates was our manager, and he said, "I'm gonna take you out the game." I said, "No, you're not. I got to get even." And so he goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm gonna get even." And so we get the first two guys out, and the next guy coming up is Ken Griffey Jr. And I walked out to the mound. I said, "I need this bastard to hit in the ribs." They go, "You got it, Will." They hit him in the ribs, and he gets down to first base, and he's like, he can't breathe. He's breathing like that. And I go, "Damn, can that look like that hurt?" He goes, "Fuck you, Will." And I go, "No, tell Pinella he can kiss my ass too. I'm gonna hit you again next time up there." And needless to say, I didn't get hit again.
Problem solved.
Thanks, Dan.
There you go.
Phil Shepard, you're up.
Will, from one lefty to another, the sweetest swing in baseball. Just wanted to say two things. What was your greatest thrill in baseball and your biggest disappointment both with the Giants, I mean?
Well, the biggest thrill would be my first at bat off of Nolan, first at bat in the major leagues. You take him deep. You're like, "Oh Jesus, is this how it's supposed to be?" And then then the at bat off of Mitch Williams, because we all do the bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, all that sort of stuff. And, to live that was unbelievable. And then the disappointment on the other side of things was breaking my elbow my rookie year. I was off to a great start my rookie year, wound up breaking the elbow, got in a bad collision with Galarraga there in Montreal. And not only did I not win rookie of the year, but then I knew I was going to have surgeries down the road to get that straightened out. And so that will wind up being the case.
And really, you were not, if you were around, the Giants, they only finished a few games behind the Astros that year. I forgot about that. Yeah, you were out. You were out. Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for all the memories.
No, my pleasure. And then not only that too, I made the last out at Mike Scott's no hitter when they clinched that year too. So one of them things.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you for everything.
My pleasure. Thanks for the questions.
Will, if you haven't noticed, you're so beloved here. Bill Clink, you're up.
Will, thank you very much. I want to share a personal note. We call you Will, and my entire life, my father never called me Bill. He always called me Will, but he wasn't talking about you. But I always thought when he thought of Will, I'm a Will too, but not in the same way you are. I don't know if you remember this photo. This
I do remember that photo.
That is a cool one.
So they did the playoff of Wayne's World, and then they did Will's World, and Corey Schneider was blonde haired, and they said, "Would you mind coming and being on the cover?" And Corey was all in on it, and we cut up that whole day when we did that photo shoot. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I want to say this: there's a lot of guys that played 15 years. But I want to take any other guy who played 15 years and match it against your career. And this is I'm gonna give you the paid political commercial here for the Hall of Fame. And it's simply this: you actually got better the longer you played. Most guys go into a decline. You never hit less than 282 ever in 15 years. Ever less than 282.
Yeah.
But the important thing was, look, the last 4 years you played, you hit 305, 303, 319, and 345 the last years you played. How many guys do that? They don't do that.
They got a little stat. They got a little stat out there.
Unless he did steroids, which Will wouldn't do steroids.
No. But it's who retired with the highest batting average, and I think I was number 2 behind. I think it was Roberto Clemente. Yeah. So I retired with highest batting average my last year and just kind of walked away.
Yeah,
but to go
45 and walked away.
Yeah, exactly. But to go to your point, the one thing that I was probably most proud of my whole career was I was not the guy that was going to drive in a run when it was 5-0 or 7-0. I was the guy that was going to drive in the run when it was 2-1, 3-2, 2-2. Those were the runs that I drove in, and I was most proud of that.
Well, that 31 game-winning RBIs over a 3-year period. That speaks to everything. But you opened in your career opened with you being in the playoffs. It closed with you being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You hit 360 in the first set of playoff games, 650 against Chicago, and you hit 412 against all these guys Mets. The way that you began and ended was unbelievable.
Thank you.
I don't know. That's my case for the Hall. I wanted to take you back for a moment though, earlier in your life. When you went to Mississippi State, you played with Jeff Brantley there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about what that was like playing at Mississippi State and then with the Giants, and then I think Bobby Thigpen came out of Mississippi State. You had a bunch of guys coming out of there.
Yep, and then Rafael Palmeiro was our left fielder. And, we were, for the 3 years I was at Mississippi State, we were a perennial powerhouse. We were in the top 5 all year. And Jeff Brantley, who I was the number 1 pick with the Giants. Jeff Brantley was our number 8 pick, and he was a senior that year. But Jeff is the all-time leader in like wins and something else in the SEC. So Jeff Brantley set records that won't be broken as far as the pitcher goes in the SEC. So it shows you how good a talent they got with him too as well.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna take you back finally, one step further back. You went to Jesuit. One other guy went to Jesuit, and he had a pretty fine career too, didn't he?
Yes, he
And
did.
Played a pretty good first base. And you both ought to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm speaking obviously of Rusty Staub.
Yep.
But
Yep.
is there any recognition of the two of you at the high school? What have they done there?
Yeah. Yeah, they got a I guess you want to say like a recognition of everybody that made the major leagues from Jesuit High School, and Rusty and I are, needless to say, with some other ones are right up there at the top. And then Rusty, you know, when you know, he had gotten retired, he had the restaurant there in New York, and every time I'd go to New York, I'd make sure I stopped in on Rusty and had something to eat at his restaurant.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Bill.
very much, Will.
My
Steve,
pleasure.
you're
Thank
up.
you.
Hey, before I ask a question, Gary, can I mention my book or should I just ask a question?
Not appropriate, Steve.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Will Clark, I got a 16-year-old ball player in my household. Here he is. This dude's name is Ansel. He plays for a high school in San Francisco. He's a sophomore. He is a medium-sized guy who, as a freshman, was a starter, and they put him in right field, and he also pitched, also plays second base. So the question is, what advice for hitting would you give Ansel for this upcoming season? He's a serious
All right, make
ball
sure.
player. Serious
All right,
ball player. He's got-
Ansel, I'm gonna keep this very, very simple for you. All right.
Yeah.
Take your hands. Take your bottom hand. So you're right-handed, correct?
Yeah.
You're right-handed. So take your left hand and pull it straight to the ball. All right.
Mhm.
And when you do that, when you pull your hand straight to the ball, your elbow stays down, your shoulder stays down, and the bat kind of stays flat coming through the zone. So it undoes all of the screw ups that all of these launch angle meatheads are trying to do. All right.
Yeah.
So if you take your hands and you pull it straight to the ball, that's first off. Second off, wherever you pull your hands, the barrel of the bat is right behind your hands. You're going to make better contact.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Paul, you're up, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Will, so much for being here. We're just really so excited. I just have two questions. They're more, the first question I have is, when you played with the Giants, who taught you more about the game of baseball than you might have known coming in? And the second question, who was your closest personal friend on the Giants?
Both of those questions are Mike Kruko, without a shadow of a doubt. Mike and his wife Jennifer took me in under their house. They let me stay there. I became Uncle Will to all of their kids. I'd play, you know, wiffle ball games in the backyard with all of their kids and all that. And in turn, Mike taught me how to be a pro. And he was my best friend on the team. And he's one of the reasons why I was able to take his teachings and pass them on to not only my teammates, but now pass them on to the kids that are coming through the sport now.
Thanks again, Will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mike
Appreciate
S., you had posted some questions. Floor is yours.
Will,
I
favorite
have a
player of all
question
time?
about,
Mars. Go ahead, Mike, go.
Okay. Let me find my questions. I had three questions for you. Number one, your favorite teammate, which I think you just answered during your Giant years. Sounds like it was Mike Kruko, who's
Mike Kruko.
We're loving listening to him all these years. Another great Giant, and thanks for the thrills and the memories from both of you guys. Number two, the 1986 through 1993 teams, your years with the Giants, which team did you feel was the best team?
Believe it or not, I thought 93 was the best team. You know, I mean, we had John Burkett, Billy Swift were both 20-game winners. You know, Barry was the MVP that year. Matt and I had real solid years. And, we just came up when we had a really good bullpen, and we just came up a little short to the Atlanta Braves. And it was how it was back then. I mean, you had to outright win the West in order to make the postseason, and we didn't get it done. We missed by a game.
Yeah, no, a lot of great things in that era. But,
Mars, there are
Yes.
people who are talking. You had your chance.
one last question, Will. Tell me about the Pacific Stock Exchange and how that all developed with you and Kevin Mitchell back in the day, 1989, I would guess.
Yeah, so Kevin and I had got off to a good start that year, and we were smacking the ball around, and I think it was the San Francisco Chronicle. They came up with a little contest, like name, the duo, like the Bay Area Bombers or whatever it was, and I don't know how it got that way, but they named it the Pacific Stock Exchange. And we actually went to the stock exchange, and before they were open one morning, and took a bunch of pictures, and it wound up being a big poster, and the Giants used it for PR stuff.
So just one last thing, Will, like everybody here, just enjoyed watching you all these years. Favorite Giant of all time on my end. And I was at your retirement of your number ceremony this year, and it was unbelievable. Your speech was just unbelievable, and certainly my favorite Giants game since probably 2014.
Well, I appreciate it. That was one of those things, it had been on hold for about 2 or 3 years, and I had the speech written. I had done the speech 1,000 times. I knew it backwards and forwards. And, my big thing was everybody knew why we were there. We all knew why we were there, but I could not have been there without thanking a lot of people, teammates, fans, ownership group, family members. And, so I wanted to recognize all of them. And then at the end, I basically told you who I was. I told you I am Will the Thrill Clark. I am part of San Francisco, and I am forever a Giant.
Now, I probably listened to that clip about 200 or 300 times in the next few days.
Yeah, when you need to get fired up, that's a good one to listen to.
That's a good one to listen to. Hey, thanks, Will. Wonderful.
Well, I was just about to say about firing us up. It was a very tough season, and hearing that speech and how you ended it, I mean, couldn't be a prouder Giant fan after that. How are you for time?
I'm okay. I got about 10, 15 minutes, I guess.
Perfect. All right, we got Jason and then Nicole.
Okay.
Jason, you're up.
All right, thank you. Hi, Will.
Hey, Jason.
You were one of my favorite players growing up.
Thank you.
I'm a little nervous. Feel like I'm 12 again.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Thank you. I just had a question about your first game and what went through your mind preparing for that with facing Nolan.
I mean, Roger Craig and Al Rosen gave me the job, and we're in spring training. I got to finish up spring training and all that, and then all of a sudden spring training comes in, and I go, oh Jesus, I got to face the Express. It's like, oh my God. And so I go out to a few of the veterans. I go out to Chili Davis and Bob Brenly and those guys. And first thing they said he likes to work away. They said he'll buzz the tower, but he likes to work away. So I'm like, all right. So I'm kind of looking for a fastball away. And he did the best thing he could have ever done for me personally, which was the first pitch. He threw a curveball. And, I kind of sort of buckled a little bit, but I saw it really good the whole way. And that really allowed the kind of butterflies and the nerves to settle in. And he missed up and away with a fastball next pitch. And then the 1-1 fastball was right there. And when I hit it, oh my God. I mean, you never ever think you're going to go out of center field of the Astrodome. But when I hit it, it made this god awful. I mean, just whack, and it just reverberated throughout the whole Astrodome. And you know, I know I run around the bases, you know, I just float around there. I point to my family in the stands, I high five. And then it always happened in the big moments of my career. This like calm came over me, and I'm sitting on the bench, and this calm comes over me. And I look to my left, and it's Chili Davis, you know, one of my mentors again. And I go, this big bastard's gonna drill me. He goes, oh hell yeah. And so like the next time up there, he's in his windup, and I'm on the way to the ground as he buzzes the tower.
That's awesome. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Jason.
much.
My
Nicole?
pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, this is such a thrill, Will. Thank you so much. And thank you, Rick, for letting me in the back door here. So I have two questions if you have time.
Yeah.
One is who's going to be our breakout for next year? And two is if you could pick any player in baseball history, who would you take out for a beer?
Oh my goodness. All right. First off, part one of your question. I would like to see Mr. Davis have a great year. You know, he came over from the Mets. Unbelievable power. I mean, this guy's got power, buku. I think that if he can harness it, he's poised for a very special year. And if I could take anybody out for a beer, it would be the Iron Horse, Lou Gehrig. I would love to be able to buy him a beer and just pick his brain.
Thank you, Nicole. Got time for two more. James and then Scott Rothschild. James McGee, you're up.
Hey, Will, how you doing?
Hey, James, how you?
Good. Hey, thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you've done for us as fans. We loved, and this might have already come up before, we loved hearing your speech when your jersey was retired. We have a recording of it, of course, and we love to review that. My wife, I'm blessed to be married to Christina. Her father, my late father-in-law, played for the New York Giants for 5 years.
Oh, nice.
Jack Lucky Lorky, third base mostly, and I was really fortunate when I met my wife 30 years ago. I was starting to be more of a football fan. I had been a Giants fan as a little kid, but I kind of got away from it, and I got back into the fold with the Giants after meeting Christina. And she's a bit shy, but if you would say hello to her right now, she'd love it, I'm sure. She's there with her camera turned off, kind of being a little bit shy.
Well, Miss Christina, thank you so much for being a San Francisco Giant fan and supporting the team. Keep it up. We'll get you another world championship here pretty soon.
Thanks, James. Scott Rothschild.
Hey, Will, big time fan forever. Back, I guess, the 80s, I cut school to head out to the Grand Hyatt in New York City when you were playing the Mets, try to find you, track you down, get your autograph. I got Willie McGee, I got Rod Beck, and then when I saw you, you just mumbled something, and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Clark," and then you yelled at me and wouldn't give me the autograph. So, but no worries.
We were getting hammered at that Grand Central Hyatt.
No worries. You're still my favorite ever.
There you go.
Just curious, looking at baseball.
Send him $20 in the card and he'll sign it.
Looking at baseball today, and just the things I remember about you were just your work ethic and your hard work, and just it just showed without even having to do anything. What players impress you in regular, normal baseball? What's going on today? Any players impress you?
You know, the guy that I really like, and he's easy to like, is Trout. I like Trout a lot. I think he's got a real good work ethic. Got a good head on his shoulders, big old dude, and takes advantage of it. You know, if you'd asked me that question a few years back, I was a big Albert Pujols fan. The year I retired was Albert's rookie year, and so you know, I'm a big Albert fan too. So that would be probably two at the top of my list.
Great, thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to
You're
end
quite
it.
welcome. Sorry about not getting an autograph back in the day.
It's all right. Still love you.
Well, I'm going to end it with.
All right. So I got one for you. Gary. All right. Just, you know, because I know we run in here at the end. So, I'm on second base. All right. And 2 outs. Don Zimmer is our third base coach. All right. Don Zimmer's 1980. Don Zimmer would bet on 2 ants walking across the street. All right. And he sent in 1987, he sent everybody from second base. We only had like 4 guys thrown out, which on a major league schedule, that's nothing. And so, it's 2 outs. I'm on second base. I know he's going to send me, and there's a base hit to right field. So the base hit is behind me. So when you come into third base, the coach is there and he's waving you, one of those numbers, and he is going to give you some bit of advice. He's going to give you some encouragement, like, hey, you got to go, or you take your time. You got plenty of time. It's going to be, or you got to go. It's going to be bang, bang, something like that. And, so here's the base hit behind me. I don't know where the ball is. I'm coming around third. Zimmer's waving me in. I knew he was going to wave me in. And he goes, you got to go, but you're going to be out. And I'm coming around third. I'm like, time out. What do you mean I'm going to be out? You're still sending me. And as luck would have it, slide in the home plate, throws off lines, scored a run, all that sort of stuff. I walked up to Zim after the game's over. I said, dude, tell me anything, but I'm going to be out, because I'm expecting Mike Stocha, somebody, to bury me at home plate. So that's a Don Zimmer betting on everything story.
Will, we cannot thank you enough for you giving us your time. Why don't we give a great round of applause to the Thrill? Will,
Thank
you really, honestly, legendary to this group. Please know you're always welcome to join us to hear somebody else, but can't thank you enough. And I think you realize that despite many of us being New York Giant fans, we are lovers of the San Francisco and you in particular. So really, Will, can't thank you enough.
Well, and then here's the thing, Gary, and you and I kind of had talked about this before. The San Francisco Giants would not be without the New York Giants. We would not be without the Melotts and Carl Hubbles and early Willie Mazes and all that, to where when they moved out west, that tradition, would have followed. So, I am definitely a baseball history guy. I'm up on it. And I thank all of you guys for the Preservation Society for having me on here. This won't be the last time. We'll do it again. I won't be parked in a truck after I just got through hunting. I'll be in front of my computer, and I'll be able to show y'all a few more things, especially some of the young kids. I can give them a few little pointers and lessons.
Guys, give it up for Will Clark.
Yay, all right.
Right.
Thank you.
Will, thanks so much. We will see
All right,
everybody.
guys. Y'all take care of yourself. Thank y'all for having me.
Be well, Will.
All
We
right,
will
guys.
see each other next week. I will hang out in the room if anybody wants to talk some Giant baseball. Be good, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Gary.
you,
Gary,
Thanks,
thank
Phil.
you.
Gary.
Thank you,
Bye.
Gary.
Gary.